Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWAS. We're on to Monday Night Football. It was a very good weekend for me. So hopefully you all had some good weekends as well. A good college football Saturday, good NFL Sunday. Love it. Hope the positivity continued. Live bets did awesome too. It was a great weekend for the bat signal. We're looking on to Monday Night Football here. We got two games. I bet both of them. So we'll see how that goes. Let's get into it. I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points? I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sauce. All right, we'll start with the Jets on the road in Miami, AFC East division game here. There's been no movement in this one. It opened at 2.5. It's still sitting at 2.5. It looks like the Dolphins took a little bit of money because now I'm seeing juice 2.5s, -120s, -117s, things of that nature. But this market has been stuck at 2.5 pretty much since open. So what do we think of this game? Well, the Jets have not had a ton of success against this Miami Dolphins team at all. They're 4-14 in their last 18 matchups against the Dolphins. And if you isolate it specifically to their road games at Hard Rock, 0-9. 9 straight losses in this building. So betting the Jets on the road in Hard Rock has not been a profitable endeavor. Although they may have covered the number a couple times in there. That's just straight up. I didn't even look to see if they covered. The Jets have lost 9 straight in this building. So will it become 10 straight? Well, we're starting off with the Jets offense against the Dolphins defense, and based on the full season numbers, you'd think the Jets should have no problems moving the ball in this Dolphins defense. So far, Miami's 32nd in success rate, 32nd in EPA. On paper, the Dolphins are the least efficient defense in the NFL so far this year, and the Jets offense 16th and 24th. So based on these full season numbers, you'd think, oh, wow, this Jets offense with a healthy Justin Fields, they're going to put up a big number in this game. But here's the thing. I still think this Dolphins defense is going to be pretty good this year. This was a top 10 defense last year. They actually added a couple pieces. They got a couple pieces back from injury like Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips. So I actually think this Dolphins defense is going to be pretty good this year. And if you take a look at their games so far, I mean, they played the Colts in week 1. Nobody knew what to expect from that Colts offense. And by the way, it looks like the most efficient offense in the NFL so far this year. They played the Patriots, who, under the radar, one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL that nobody's talking about. They're averaging like 6.5 yards per play, the Patriots. Even in the games they're losing, they're averaging over 6 yards per play. The opener against the Raiders was the Patriots' worst game. They averaged over 5 yards per play in that game. So, yeah, the Patriots were moving the ball on the Dolphins. That Patriots offense is a lot better than people think. And then the Bills in Buffalo. So, I mean, looking at their body of work so far, you got a new secondary that's never played together, and you're playing against offenses that look really strong so far this year. So like I said, I know there's a lot of people looking at the season-long numbers, and they're looking at this Jets offensive roster coming into this one healthy, getting Justin Fields back. I know there's a lot of people thinking the Jets offense is about to just march up and down the field on the road at Hard Rock, and I just disagree. I know the Dolphins defense is still dealing with some injuries. Jason Marshall's been ruled out, the nickel. Also, Storm Duck is out as well. But, I mean, the Dolphins are pretty deep in the secondary. You got all the names pictured here. They also have Rasul Douglas on the team. So, look, Storm Duck, I believe, is supposed to be a starter. Jason Marshall is supposed to be a starter. They're kind of deep in terms of pieces in the secondary. Well, maybe not deep, but look, with no Jason Marshall and no Storm Duck, they still have experienced starters that can play. That's basically what I'm saying. And I'm sorry, but I have to ask this. Are we sure this Jets offense is even any good? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of stock being placed in one data point, the opener against the Steelers. And, I mean, that was with a brand new coach, brand new quarterback. The Steelers defense had no idea what to expect or what was coming from the Jets offense in that game. And that was against a Steelers secondary that had never played together before. Remember, that Steelers secondary is mostly new. I'm not trying to take away credit for the Jets and what they did offensively in that game, but it seems like there's a lot of stock being put into that one game. Dude, the Jets offense didn't look very good in the last 2 games. I know Justin Fields didn't play. He got injured in the Buffalo game and he didn't play in the Tampa game, but 4.8 yards per play. And look, let's take a look at that one data point, because it seems like that's the data point that everyone's harping on here, that week 1 game against the Steelers. Let's take a closer look at it. Justin Fields did all of his damage from a clean pocket. When he experienced pressure, he didn't handle it all that well. Now, a 69.8 passer rating when pressured, that's not terrible, but he did most of his damage in that game from a clean pocket. Are we even sure the Jets offensive line can give him time to throw in this game? You want to know who the most pressured quarterback in the NFL is the last 2 weeks? The most pressured quarterback in the NFL? Tyrod Taylor. Pressured on 54% of his dropbacks the last 2 weeks, most in the NFL. And by the way, Tyrod Taylor, he's a guy that gets the ball out of his hands quickly, 2.58 seconds, and he was still pressured on 54% of his dropbacks. Justin Fields, go back to this other graphic. Look at the time to throw. Justin Fields holds on to the football. Are we even sure the Jets offensive line can keep him protected in the pocket in this game? This is going to sound a little bit hot take-ish, but I think there's a chance the Jets offense looks terrible in this game. I think the Dolphins defense is going to play well. I don't think this Jets offense is very good. I don't think the offensive line is very good. So I like the matchup for the Dolphins defense. Now, on the other side of the ball, this is where if you bet the Jets, I'm more inclined to hear you out because the Dolphins offense has been a little disappointing so far this year. Tua, certainly not his best season. The Jets defense hasn't been great, but it also hasn't been terrible either. They've definitely got talent on that defense. If you're betting the Dolphins in this one, you like that it's at home at Hard Rock. Tua, over the course of his career, has always been better at home, and we've seen it this year. He's played 2 road games, and he played poorly in both those road games, but his one home game was against New England, and he played well in that game. Remember, the Dolphins' defense kind of lost in that game. It wasn't Tua. Miami's offensive line is still smoked for this one. They're missing 3 starters, although this isn't new. The Dolphins have pretty much played the entire season missing these 3 guys, so Dolphins are going to have the same offensive line they've had for pretty much the entire year, all 3 games so far this year. Certainly concerning that the Dolphins are missing those pieces on the offensive line. That being said, the Jets defense has sustained some new injuries, and these are new. These aren't pieces that have been out. These are guys that got injured last week against the Bucs. McCrary Ball, he's going to miss this game. Quincy Williams is on the IR. Jermaine Johnson missed the Bucs game, so this will be the second game he missed. But the Jets defense, specifically in the front 7, they're missing key pieces here. And look, we haven't seen Miami running the ball much this year, under 90 rushing yards per game. But when they have handed it off, it's looked efficient. 5.2 yards per carry, over 41% success rate per rush. So I think at home against a Jets defensive front that's missing key pieces, I think we'll see the Dolphins stick to the run a little bit more in this game, and I think they'll have success doing it. Now, as far as Tua, I don't think he's as terrible as everyone says, but he doesn't seem to be the electric playmaking quarterback he was a couple years back. He always seems to play well in these home games against the Jets. This Jets defense has always had talent in the secondary. Tua's had success. Obviously, he's never lost to them at home. And this Jets defense, I mean, really hasn't been all that great. In their first 3 games, they're allowing 31 points per game, 6 yards per play, success rate over 45%. So even though I don't really have a ton of faith in the Dolphins' passing attack so far this year, at home against a Jets defense that's shaping up to maybe not be very good, I think they'll be able to move the ball. So when it comes to betting it, I'm on the Dolphins here. I don't really understand. Clearly, there are sharp buyers on the Jets at 3. I'm not claiming to be sharper to whoever those people are betting the Jets at +3. But personally, I would have this one at a strong 3, maybe even a 3.5. So, yeah, I'm on the Dolphins at -2.5. I think this number's a little short. Cincinnati on the road in Denver. Last week on the show, I picked Minnesota -3 with Carson Wentz. And the specific reason for it, or the main reason for it, was Jake Browning against the Brian Flores blitz packages against the Vikings pass rush. And, yeah, I mean, it was a no-sweat one. 48-10 was the final score. I like Jake Browning. I think he's one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL, actually. But now he's going on the road again against another elite pass rush that blitzes a ton. The Broncos, 3rd in blitz rate, 1st in pressure rate, 6th in time to pressure. So Jake Browning, after seeing the Vikings, who have very similar pass rush numbers, now goes on the road to see the Denver pass rush. That's tough. Jake Browning can't catch a break here. This Denver defense had that slight hiccup against the Colts. Indy was moving the ball a little bit on the Broncos in that game, even though they should have won anyway. Other than that game, Broncos defense has pretty much lived up to expectations. They're looking like one of the strongest defenses in the NFL. They're 4th in success rate, 7th in EPA so far this year. Looking at these numbers on paper, there's not really much that shows the Bengals are going to move the ball in this game. Broncos defense is coming into this one healthy with the exception of Dre Greenlaw, but that's not new. He hasn't played yet this year for the Broncos. So Hufanga was on the injury report a couple weeks back. He's fine. He's not even on the report anymore. So Denver's defense is coming into this one healthy. honestly, like I said, there's nothing on paper that indicates the Bengals are going to score points on Denver in this one. Here's the thing. I kind of think they are going to score points on Denver, and I want you to hear me out. This is probably a little thin. A lot of you are probably going to disagree with this, but I think Cincinnati's going to score points on maybe not an offensive explosion. I think Browning's going to move the ball on the Broncos in this game. So why, you're probably asking? Well, we all saw Jake Browning struggling on the road against that Minnesota defense last year. Here are the numbers on the screen. They certainly look ugly, not defending this performance at all. I had Minnesota -3. I didn't bet it, but I picked it on the show. So we all saw what happened with Jake Browning in Minnesota last week. So, number one, he's now seeing a very similar defense in terms of the pass rush. Blitz-heavy, elite pass rush. And it's kind of like in baseball where you're like, oh, this team sucks against lefties, but they're now seeing, they saw a lefty, and the next day they're seeing another lefty that also features the sinker. So it's like, I don't trust this lineup against lefties, but they might be a little bit more prepared for it. That was probably a weird comparison, but Jake Browning might be a little bit more prepared for that type of environment, considering he just saw blitz packages and a pass rush just like it. So that's number one. Maybe you don't like that. Maybe you do. I kind of like it. But in addition to that, this Denver defense is similar to Minnesota in a sense that they blitz a lot and they have an elite pass rush. But in terms of coverage, they're not similar at all to Minnesota. We know what Brian Flores does. He blitzes and he sits in cover 2. That's what he's always done, and that's what Brian Flores will always do. That's not what Vance Joseph does with this Broncos defense. They run a ton of man coverage, over 45% man coverage rate so far this year. A lot of man coverage, a lot of single high safeties. Jake Browning is a monster against man coverage. Now, this graphic right here is the 2025 stats. That's only 5 dropbacks, so ignore those numbers here. That's no sample size at all. But Jake Browning, you remember in 2023 when Joe Burrow got hurt and Jake Browning was starting for a while? He had a 137.9 passer rating against man coverage in 2023. The Bengals have wide receivers that could beat man coverage. Jake Browning could beat man coverage. So even though I don't trust Jake Browning against pressure in the slightest, he can piece up man coverage, which the complete opposite of what Minnesota does. Minnesota sits in a cover 2. Denver runs man. And I think Browning and those receivers can beat man coverage. Now we get to the other side of the ball. And I mean, both of these units look terrible. We all know how bad the Bengals defense is. Actually, the Broncos offense on paper has been worse than the Bengals defense so far this year. The Broncos offense has been worse than the Bengals defense so far this year. Bo Nix under pressure is the worst thing I've ever seen. 2.7 yards per pass attempt under pressure. 2.7. 8.8% turnover-worthy play rate. 33.5 pass rating under pressure. So yeah, safe to say Bo Nix has not handled pressure well. Now, the Cincinnati pass rush isn't anything crazy. 24th in pressure rate, 23rd in time to pressure. They do so without blitzing, though. So there's something. They generate some pressure without sending any extra rushers. So I suppose that's something. But honestly, on this side of the ball, I was having trouble finding angles for this video. I mean, I really don't know what I think about either of these units. I think we can probably agree the Bengals defense is going to be bad. I think most of you would agree with that. As far as the Broncos offense, is it going to come around or not? I'm not really sure. I don't really think Bo Nix might not be a good quarterback. The Broncos have some decent looking rushing numbers in terms of raw data so far this year. 5.4 yards per carry, 130 rush yards per game, but 31.1% success rate per rush and the EPA per rush, those are terrible. Those are indicating that these numbers are a little bit fraudulent in terms of the Denver rushing attack. So I don't know if I trust Denver to run the ball. I don't know if I trust Bo Nix. I mean, what I do know is this Cincinnati defense is probably terrible. They had that one game, the opener on the road in Cleveland. It seems like they've turned back into a pumpkin. In the last 2, they're giving up 37.5 points per game, 6.3 yards per play, success rate up close to 53%. It's been terrible for the Bengals defense. So, I mean, overall, I don't trust Denver's offense at all, but I mean, it is a pretty favorable spot for them. They're coming home after back-to-back road losses. They get an extra day to prep against a bad defense. I think it's a nice little get-right spot for Bo Nix and the Denver offense. So I do think they'll move the ball. So I like both of these offenses to move the ball. Combine that with the fact that both these teams are top 10 in pace in terms of seconds between snaps. Give me an over. I'm on the over 43.5 here, and I also bet the Bengals plus 8.5, which is an ugly one, I know, but I think Browning's going to have a good game. So I think we see 28-27 final score here. Give me the Bengals plus the points and the over. I bet both of these. We'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. See you guys at midnight for the NFL show. Those of you that are able to make it. Yeah, great football weekend. Let's keep that positivity rolling. Appreciate the support as always.